right, we are back for a special edition here at OSPTV at the OSP National Conference 2024 in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. And what a show we have for you today with a very special guest that we have in-house. Before I introduce him, I got to introduce our co-pilots here, our Director of Business Development, Justin Spencer, the OG Dustin Woods, and our special guest who flew in today to be with us, which is an extreme honor for us. The most dominant UFC champion you've ever seen. Gets right down to business, one of the most athletic, agility, skill. He's got the winning mindset, which we talk about a lot here at One Source Provider. The first ever African-born UFC champion, record-breaking welterweight defenses in the UFC division. The one, the only, the Nigerian nightmare, Kamaru Usman is here with us. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't think you were going to stop. I thought you were going to keep going.
I tried to keep rattling them off. I was going to add handsome, fast, all of that.
Those all good. Those all good,
like Bruce Buffer and start.
Keep going, he says. No, you did great.
Good. Well, I appreciate it. Good. It's good to have you here with us, chap. So what do you got going on?
Well, right now, obviously, I'm here at the NAT conference, the OSP NAT conference, which is, it's great because I'm seeing a lot of these young professionals, and immediately, while I was taking pictures with all of them, what I was thinking was, wow, there's a lot of all these young professionals who are willing to work right now, because that's the big thing that we saw in the last 4 years. Obviously, during this presidential reign is, a lot of people not wanting to work, not wanting to be in the workforce and workplace. So seeing all these young professionals kind of gives me a little bit of hope for the next, the guys coming up behind us.
That's a good point. And speaking of those young professionals, right, they start rising up through the ranks, maybe getting some results. Someone I think of you and Kamaru Usman, who, I'm a big fan, watched all your fights. When you became the UFC champion, you went on that run that you really rarely see. So how did you stay humble and just keep getting better and better to keep that streak going and keep defending your title? And obviously you had the target on your back.
Well, for me, it was never really, they say this saying all the time, and I didn't understand it until I was up there. They say success is not, it's not a destination. It's about the journey, and for me, it was really about that. When I got into the sport, I didn't get into it necessarily because I wanted to be famous or rich or anything like that. Of course, I wanted money. I'm be honest about that. Of course, you want the money, but I got into it because I wanted to be the best at something. I had competed in wrestling, and I wrestled for a long, long time, and I was a national champion. And then I started chasing the Olympic dream, and I didn't achieve that. I didn't get there, but it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. And so I found this new sport that was I fell in love with it, but I was still kind of scared to go into it. So I was kind of playing hopscotch. Do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? And then once I eventually said, you know what, I'm going to go do that, there was no plan B, C, D, or E. It was just, I was going to do everything to make this work. And before you knew it, I had won maybe 5, 6 fights in a row, 7 fights in a row, 8 fights. But it's just, as long as I prepared for the next one and was focused on the next one and the next one and the next one, next thing you know, they're telling me I'm going to break this record or that record and this. And I didn't really think about that until I was there. I was like, oh, maybe they are right, So it's, for me, it was never about getting there. It was just about working and working. And as I'm working, I'm continuing to improve until eventually, next thing I know, I've stacked up, some wins, stacked up a little bit of money, so it's like, oh, this paid off, this worked.
You talked about the work that has to be put in, right? A lot of these young entrepreneurs you met today, they're starting out at the bottom, right? Everybody sees you at the top, right? And as Dustin said, that target on your back. But I heard your story a little bit. You started from bare bones, right? You came out of wrestling, and you if I heard you correct, you slept on a mattress in a buddy's.
Yeah. No, I stayed with a friend, which my friend happened to have a really nice house, so
so good friends now.
I wasn't in the closet or anything. I was in the bedroom in his nice house, you know. Shout out to, you know, my big brother, Rashad Evans.
Sugar Rashad.
Yeah, so Rashad was at the top, and then so
we had Rashad on here too.
Really?
Over COVID.
Yeah. So.
we did.
Yeah. So it was just when you go into something, a lot of people are afraid to start from the bottom. You know, it's like this thing when you excel at something else, and you start to gain a little traction with something, it's hard to go back and start from the bottom in something new. And that's one thing that just growing in athletics kind of taught me. Once I went into wrestling, high school, I started from the bottom. I was just learning. Then I got to where I was a state placer. Then it was like, you went to college. Now you start from the bottom again. You know, you got All-Americans, you got national champions, and then you work, and you become an All-American, then you become a national champion. Then I went to go train for the Olympics, and I started at the bottom again. And now you're in there with multiple national champions and world team members, and then you start building and building and building. Then I go into MMA, and I have to start from the bottom again. You know, but it's just one thing about it is just once you fall in love with that process of improvement and improving and improving and improving, you know that as long as I continue to work, I'm gonna improve and I'm gonna get better at this. You know, and it's something that I tell my brother now, because he's also a fighter, he's in the UFC, is that you do something long enough, even if you're doing it wrong, you do it long enough, you're gonna get good at doing it wrong. You know, and so that's the thing, is so as long as you continue to work, you're gonna improve and you're gonna see that result.
Did you fall in love? So you're talking about doing that thing you loved. Were there pieces of that you hated?
Absolutely.
You learned to love it?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course, no one really likes getting punched in the face. You gotta kind of be sick to love getting punched in the face.
Amir loved
it.
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, if you like getting just punched in the face, that's something's wrong. There's a little something. You know, but no one really, I don't really like getting punched in the face. But you do it long enough, you learn to appreciate it and you learn to understand it. And you learn that, okay, if I get hit, it triggers something in my head. Maybe I was doing something wrong, that's why I got hit. I don't like to get hit. Maybe I need to learn how to not get hit. You know, so it triggers something that you have to actually activate in your mind, which in turn is you learning, you improving, you getting better at something.
And Kamaru, you touched on so many points there in the fight game, and it really takes, you know, guys that are in the gym or under the lights to appreciate what that takes, you know, the hard work inside the gym and the dedication, the sacrifice in training camp with your sparring partners, with your training partners, with your strength and conditioning coach, with your nutritionist. But that correlates exactly to how life is, and what we tell, you know, a lot of our agents here is you are going to get beat up, not necessarily physically, but you will get beat up in life. You will be kicked in the teeth. You will be put down to the ground. You will want to tap out. You will want to go through those challenges, but you always have to have that mentality, that winning mindset. What do you think is the number one thing, or one of the most important things to have that winning mentality? What does that take, and what is that made of?
Well, it's, you know, and I tell this to my wife, is she's a realtor. And sometimes you got to call those expired listings and things like that and try to prospect some of those clients. And people hang up on you all day. You know, that's that position. People are hanging up on you constantly. Some people are having bad days, and you call them and they take it out on you on the phone. And I tell her, you know, try a different approach. You always approach it with gratitude. You know, it's going to be that one person that just might listen. And it's crazy that we'll have that conversation, and a day later it's like, you know what, I got one today. Someone actually listened, you know, and I offered them help, and I might actually be working with that person. So it's just about having gratitude in what you're doing in each and every time, and, you know, it'll pay off.
It's one thing when you fall on your face and you get back up, but how do you keep getting up, you know, with your story, right? Being the first UFC champion from Africa, odds stacked against you, you keep getting knocked down. But how do you overcome that when you have naysayers? You have the people that are doubting you and saying, hey, this isn't maybe the route, like there's better options out there. Like a lot of our young sales professionals, you know, it's not a normal route. Sales, as you just said, is very difficult. How do they keep that laser focus on that end goal or their dream?
That's just life. We're all humans, and we all think a certain way. Each human, you know, has limitations in their head that they've kind of fixed on themselves. Especially now, we're in an age where everyone wants to be expressive. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. And so, yeah, that guy might have limitations, but he tries to put it on you while you're doing your job. Like, oh, you can't do that. You can't get that client. You can't close that account. You can't bring that person in. You can't do that. It's only impossible until someone does it. You know, there's been lots of things that have been like, look at these buildings. It was impossible at one point to build things like this, but we're in it. Someone dared to do it, and they did it, and they accomplished it. So it's just, naysayers are always going to be there. People are going to say whatever they want, but that's based on their limitations.
Do you let that motivate you think?
I'm not going to say it hasn't. You know, I mean, it's someone might say something, and then I hear it, and it's like extra, okay, I'm going to show you.
Not to name any names.
And I do it, you know, so, but at the end of it, especially now in time, that's not that important, you know. With age comes wisdom, you know, the older and the wiser you get, you realize that they're just talking about their limitations. That can't stop me from doing it. I've shocked myself with some of the things that I've done, you know, so if I still shock myself, just wait till I shock them.
All right, I got 2 questions. One silly question. Really cool to see when Francis was the champ and you were the champ together.
Yeah. How
big is he in real life?
Oh, he's big. He's big, but the one thing about Francis, yeah, he's big. He's a big physical guy, 6'4", 265, you know, but it's his presence that people don't understand. He's a big guy, you know, you're standing next to him, you're like, oh, it's a big guy. But then when you're locked inside of a cage with him and he takes his shirt off, you know, and it's just little gloves with him, right. It's like, oh, that's a big guy.
A lunchbox for,
you know.
Have you ever been fortunate enough to be in a cage with him?
I've trained with him. I've been hit by him. It's not fun.
No.
It's not fun. It wasn't full hit. It was just kind of a jab, but even that I felt.
You felt it?
It cracked my neck. I felt it. Yeah, big. For sure.
All right. Got muscles on muscles.
He's just a big, solid guy, you know.
Yeah, but I don't remember me welterweight's as big as you either.
I look big on TV. I'm not that big. I just look big on TV.
You look big now, Chad. You look big now. Hey, second question. So, talking about how do you bounce back, right? Pretty famous loss, right, with Leon. But I heard interviews afterwards, and you were just like, it happens. How do you bounce back from that? Everybody has losses in life in some capacity. What's the mindset to overcome that and come back better and stronger?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, with everything, that you're going to hit a road bump. With everything, you're going to hit a speed bump. But life doesn't stop there. You know, I'm a father. You know, I have parents, I have brothers, I have people that I have to look after. And so life doesn't stop because I lost. You know, yeah, for once in my career, someone made me cry. You know, how many people have I made cry? How many people have I ruined their days and their weeks or their month or their year? How many people's mothers have watched me do that to their sons? You know, so, you know, it happens. This is life. It's a circle of life. Things just, you know, go full round circle. So
just keep moving.
I don't let that stop me. I still compete. You know, I'm still fortunate and blessed to have a career to be able to do things and get, you know, compensated for it.
So just keep going.
I keep
Dig
going.
in.
Yeah, I keep going. I keep going.
You've had a phenomenal career so far. At the young age that you're in, the who's who of the division that you fought and have accomplished, one of the most highlight reel knockouts probably in the history of the UFC. Was there any one fight that meant more to you or was more significant to you than any other fight?
Yeah. Covington won the first fight.
Which one?
The first Covington fight.
The Covington?
Yeah, the first Covington fight. Yeah, the first one. It was just so, like, I typically don't go into fights with animosity, with you know, I never was that guy who, I have to get mad at this guy to fight him or to compete. Because for me, it wasn't about a fight. It was about competing. I loved competing. I loved going mano a mano and showing you within the confines of the rules, I can beat you. And so that was always my drive. And then with Covington, he just was such a good opponent, you know, a good villain. And because every yin means a yang, you know, and he was that perfect guy to it actually.
Under your skin?
Yes and no. Yes, of course, because it you know, you get fans and you get people behind you, so it elevates you. No, because I knew why he was doing it. You know, it's just what they do. Guys like that do. But it was the type of fight that brought out the absolute best in me that I wouldn't have. It pushed me to a place where I necessarily wouldn't have went, because my thing was I was good at beating everyone with the skills, within the skills. And so with him, it was just mano a mano. We just made a mental deal. We signed a mental contract that we were going to just duke it out as men, and whoever is going to fall is going to fall. And it was the most fun I've had. It was the most damage I've ever taken in a fight, but it was the most fun I've ever had in a fight. Yeah.
You know, something that stands out to me, and yeah, I actually thoroughly enjoyed watching those two fights and the outcomes. But, you know, you have the wrestling background, you come into the UFC, which is mixed martial arts, and it was cool to see the evolution to where in the beginning it was maybe a lot of wrestling, but later on it became, I mean, you started knocking cats out cold, right? How important is it for people to evolve maybe as a person or a human or a business person? And how much of that do you think you would attribute to why you stayed on top of the game for so long?
Yeah, it's about continue to grow each and every time. You know, if I come in and I'm, let's say in sales, I come in and I'm, you know, maybe doing 2 sales a week. And if I'm just satisfied with that and I'm happy with that, you know, 2 sales a week, after a while, with inflation, and we know all these things that are happening, it's not going to cut it eventually in a couple years. So for me, it was just a matter of I wanted to continue to add and add and add. Like I said, you do something long enough, you're going to get good at it. I came in not knowing how to strike, and I just kept working at it and working at it. I came in not knowing jiu-jitsu at all. I was just a wrestler who could grapple. I can control everybody, but I didn't know the submissions to watch out for. I didn't know, you know, how to defend myself really with my hands. And so I worked at it and worked at it and worked at it. And then it was like, once I got to jiu-jitsu down, it's like, oh, I know what this guy's doing. Once I feel hips moving this way, I know what they're setting up. Then I started working hands, and it's like, oh, I could hurt guys now with my hands. And all of a sudden, it's like, I don't have to wrestle anymore. You know, it's a little more fun to just knock them out. So,
what do you enjoy more?
What do I enjoy more?
The wrestling or the striking?
I completely wrestling. It's my first love. It's the hardest one to learn. So when you've mastered that, which I did at one point, you know, it was something that just is such an advantage over everything. So it's just something about working that hard to learn something that tough that you just fall in love with it. But of course, punching, it's as a man. It's like, it's something so primal about it. It's the ultimate way that you can show another man that I control this. This is my territory. I can protect my whatever is mine. By you hit this guy and he falls over and he's out cold. It's just something so primal about that. So yeah, of course, it's more fun. It's more entertaining too.
You see it on SportsCenter for more reels.
Best highlights ever, man. It's so good.
Kamaru, I can't thank you enough for coming.
My pleasure.
I can't thank you enough for spending your time with us here today.
Thank you.
I know all of the agents, all of our directors, all of our staff are just so thrilled to have you here. That's all they've been talking about for the whole conference.
My pleasure.
Of coming and seeing you when he announced it.
Great conference. Everyone's having a party right now, so I'm enjoying watching everybody have a great time.
A big shout out to my brother Ali Abdulaziz for making it possible and for being able to make this happen. Kamaru, you're a class act. You're a gentleman.
Thank you so much.
You're one of the best athletes that I've ever seen. I know these guys are big MMA fans. You know, I'm more of a boxing guy, but you know, combat sports is combat sports, and it takes a certain kind of person to be able to perform under those lights, regardless of what it is. And you're one of the best you do, and we're absolutely honored to have you here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Pleasure
Thank
to
you
be
guys.
here.
OG, always good to be on the show with you.
It's a pleasure.
Spence.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it, guys. We're wrapping up for another episode of OSPTV. My team, my family, my OSP. We're out, guys. Good.